Cameron Foster. Well, he's a lad, you know, he comes from Wigan. I understand from my studies that he was 9 years of age. He fell out of a chairlift and he virtually broke every bone in his body.
I was on a school skiing trip in Italy. I was 9 years old at the time, and I was with my primary school on a 2-week holiday that wasn't really that long. It was only 3-4 days because unfortunately I had a terrible skiing accident and I fell 40 feet out of a ski lift onto compacted ice. Broke both legs, dislocated both ankles and broke my left arm, and I spent 6 to 8 weeks in a wheelchair, and that's what made me realise how unfortunate other people were.
When you consider that at the age of 9 he falls 40 feet from a chairlift and smashes his legs and his ankles and dislocates God knows what, it must have looked pretty bleak, even as a 9-year-old, lying on his own, no family, in a strange country, in a strange language. That must have an enormous effect on somebody.
I spent around 2 or 3 days in the hospital in Italy, and I had all my surgery over there, pin and wires in all my limbs. And then my mum and dad flew out the day after my accident, and once I'd spent the time and I was discharged from Italy, I flew a nice swanky private jet over the Alps, which wasn't too bad. And we flew over back into Wigan, and I spent a few more days here at the Rainbow Ward, and then I was come back home to a makeshift bedroom in the dining room.
And out of his misfortune, a kind of the phoenix. And what I feel shines in him is his great spirit and love of life. And I think the greatest danger in life is not taking the adventure. That's the biggest danger.
The first thing I did when I got out of my wheelchair and back onto my feet, I said to my mum, Mum, how do blind people play football? That was the first question I asked. And she said, well, I think they have like a bell in the ball and they can hear and they can play like that. That sort of thing triggered my sort of mindset to think, right, I can do something here, and through that it made me want to help young disabled people in the borough, and I decided to organise a sponsored walk around the local arena here in Wigan, and the day consisted of a massive raffle prize that I'd wrote to all sort of the local rugby clubs, all the Premier League teams, loads of celebrities to get as much sort of prizes as I possibly can to raise money. We had probably around 300-400 people that had turned up on the day, and they were all raising their own money for the cause, and as well as myself, and it just generated loads and loads of income. It was a really good day, and we raised £5,500 for the Wigan Disability Sports Forum. After a few weeks or so, I said to my mum, right, how good was that? I said to my dad, right, that was brilliant, what can I do next, sort of thing. And then I got involved with the Mayor again, who I'd made good contacts with here in Wigan, and I did an abseil down the local hotel.
The thoughts of him coming treble the distance that he'd already fallen on the end of a rope was just, no, please don't, Cameron.
And it was around £1,000 that I raised for that sort of venture, and then once again handing over the money to the local hospice was such a great feeling, and it just kept snowballing from there, really. I think I did 4 or 5 down the same hotel in Wigan in successive years for the Mayor's charity, as well as doing 2 abseils for Cystic Fibrosis Trust out off the top of Old Trafford football ground.
When he got to the top of the stand, the North Stand at Old Trafford, and it's such an enormous stand that I think he did have some
a little moment,
yeah. And the guy who was obviously showing him what to do, obviously was talking to him and encouraging him to obviously to make the first step. But then once he got over that was it. He just came down.
He came and he waved and everybody cheered. And
as you can imagine, he's 140 feet tall, and having fallen 40 feet in itself from my accident, my mum and dad was absolutely petrified, but it was such a great feeling to be doing such a sort of big event for another great cause and to raise money for charities. It was just unbelievable. I was 14 when I first started volunteering, and I spoke to the local sports development unit, and the sort of age was 16 to become a volunteer with them. And I went and had an interview, spoke to them about what I'd done, my experience and what I'd done charity-wise, and luckily I got accepted onto the programme, and it just developed from there now, and now I coach 2 sessions for disabled kids under the Wigan Sports Development umbrella, and it's such a great feeling and something I'm really proud of, to be able to lead a session full of, it can vary from 15 to 20 kids with various disabilities.
I found out that part of my role would be managing the National Volunteers Advisory Group, which is groups of 16 to 25-year-olds that represent the country and work with me as an advisory board, so making sure that our charity is youth-led and youth-focused. So they come up with ideas that drive our charity. And I just thought Cameron would be perfect for this, so I invited him to apply to become a National Young Advisor. He took quite a pivotal role this year in being one of the compares for the awards, which meant that he worked with one of our other young advisors, Terry, on compiling the script and the format for the evening, which went down an absolute storm.
He's grown as an individual, and he's turned from a sort of a schoolboy into a young man who has a vision now about helping other people going forward.
And I feel that, you know, Cameron's a very good example of a servant, and that he's serving mankind, that he goes here, there and everywhere. You know, it's legendary. It's become legendary because carrying the torch, the Olympic torch, in Wigan.
Last November I went to Kenya on a voluntary trip for 2 weeks as part of a team of 9 people with the charity Cricket Without Boundaries. And I was the youngest volunteer at 16 years old to ever go out to Africa with the charity. And like I said, spent 2 weeks in Kenya, and what we did was coaching cricket to young children in schools and orphanages. And we was also using cricket as a tool to sort of engage them in HIV and AIDS awareness messages.
Of course, we're proud to have been involved with the AIR Foundation. To have someone like Cameron going out there raising money, giving his time and effort towards it, and you know, it doesn't stop there. It's not just with my foundation, it's also in Africa, various things, raising money for some great causes. And there's a young lad doing that. You know, it's inspiring stuff.
I wrote to the Lancashire County Cricket Club to see if they could possibly donate some kit or help out in my sponsorship efforts for Cricket Without Boundaries on my trip to Kenya. And then they read my story, had a look at some pictures, went on the internet, found out some research about me, and then they invited me down to a meeting to announce me as the first young ambassador for the Lancashire County Cricket Club Foundation.
I met him in relation to his latest charitable work, Cricket Without Boundaries. And again, he came down to the Rotary Club and inspired everybody, and the Rotary Club backed him, and individuals backed him as well in relation to donations, because we could see what it was he was trying to do.
I have just set up my own charity with a friend of mine that I went to Kenya with, and it's called They Are Africa, and the They stands for Training, Health, Education and Youth, and they're the 4 sort of platforms we want to use to help people and places in poverty out there in Africa. And our first case study that I've just fundraised the money for was a young man called George, who we met in Kenya, and this young man earns £2 a week as a job as a cricket coach, and he wants to aspire his dreams as becoming a social worker.
Cameron's supporting a young lad in his charity that he's set up in Kenya, and he's supporting a young lad to go through education, which I think is, you know, for a young boy like Cameron, he's absolutely marvellous. So I think other than giving me anything for beer, we've got Cameron's little box, and I would love you to put a donation in it for what you've had this afternoon. We'll do that.
The way that we sort of thought we would like to help George was when we was out in Kenya in the 2 weeks, he was with us for the whole sort of journey, and just throughout the 2 weeks of us being there, we saw a massive improvement in his development himself.
I think young Cameron's inspiration and a great demonstration of many young people today that get an awful bad press. And the reality is there's an awful lot of good young people about, and Cameron is somebody that's, through his accident and all the rest of it, that's given him the motivation, the drive, and the realisation that he wants to do things for other people, and is to be commended for it.
Cameron's an inspiration to people of what we're looking for people to do, and that's not only what he's doing for overseas but actually what he's doing here, and that's an inspiration for other young people of what they can do and their aspirations of what they can do in Wigan.
I think that Cameron was chosen to carry the torch because the torch is a flame of hope, and when you listen to Cameron speak you can feel that beacon of hope. People often say that young people across this country have nothing to offer. Well, they are completely wrong, and the only person that you need to listen to is Cameron to understand that. He's campaigning on behalf of other young people, he's using his platform and his position to raise the situation of other young people, and he does Wigan proud.
Stealing Cameron's words, because I spoke to him just briefly up before when we did a BBC interview, and he said that he was really proud to be on a platform to represent young people in Wigan, because he thinks that young people get a really bad name in the press, and I think he feels that he's representative of what young people in Wigan are really about, and it's about being proud of being a young person and representing people that really care about the community, and I think that's something that Cameron definitely does.
He's put his bones together, he's put his body together, he's not interested in himself, he's interested in helping people. And he carries this torch in his heart, and he carries it around from person to person to person.
In terms of where I see Cameron going in the future, what I see his role as, I joke with his mum quite often about how Cameron's going to be a national ambassador, you know, working in the unions across the world, being some kind of representative for the UK.
Well, I personally don't know. I have not a clue what is going to happen with Cameron's future. He's got so many opportunities.
I know that he loves the sports coaching, and he loves working with children of all ages, of all abilities. I think that comes out in the work that he's doing with the disabled kids, and also the work that he does at karate and the cricket. So I know that is certainly an area that that's one of his passions and one of his loves. And obviously couple that with the fundraising element and the charity work. I know that he definitely wants to keep that going.
I think in terms of Cameron going forward, the fact that he's now got this confidence and realise he has an ability to raise money for people, I think there's an enormous potential for people like that who've got the passion and the will to actually go out and do fundraising, do good stuff for charity.
Yeah, I mean, I would really just love to be able to make a difference to as many people as possible, and to use my story to inspire others, and to help them get developed and move forward in their personal future and things, and to be able to tell my story at events, and to be able to tell people what I've done, and make them realise that anything is possible if you just believe and you just work at it, and you can do whatever your dreams may be.
I think he feels that he has something a little bit different, and therefore the academic life at the moment he can put on hold and concentrate on the work he's doing in relation to becoming a personality, in relation to becoming a motivational speaker, in becoming a sports coach, and it's an amalgamation of various things like that.
So my passion is sport, and it's what I've done really for my whole life, and using that as a platform and everything I've done over the 7 years, and continuing my charity work further in the future, and having experience of speaking at events, at dinners, awards nights, in schools, it's something I would like to pursue, to become a motivational, inspirational speaker.
So out of his misfortune, he has risen, like, as I said, like the phoenix. And so that, I mean, I just have total, utter admiration for the guy. I mean, it's a great privilege to be able to say these things about him. And I've met him, and so I hope to meet him and help him. And so I beg the public, help him, ladies and gentlemen, because he wants to help you and he wants to help mankind.
Cameron Foster, a phoenix rising.